In this series of computational method lectures, we'll start with the first two topic in this particular lecture, truncation error and round off error, and then we'll see the numerical differentiation. And in computational methods, the whole series, we are going to cover the other topics like numerical integration, numerical solution of system of linear algebraic equations, numerical solution of nonlinear algebraic equation, and numerical solution of ordinary differential equations. So let us start with truncation error and round off errors. From the Taylor series, we know that if that is the function of at a point x plus h will be equal to uh, the functional value at point x plus h into f1x plus h square by 2 factorial into second order derivative. Basically this f1 f2, these are indicating the different order of the derivative of this function f1 indicates basically df dx, okay, and similarly f2 indicates the second order d2f dx2, like that. And already we know what is Taylor series. That means if this is x and if this is the function at any location, let us consider at x, if the functional value is f. Now if we want to know a neighboring value at a distance h from that x, what is the functional value? So this point is basically f of x plus h, that we want to find out, but in terms of the uh, all the functional values and their higher order derivatives at x. Okay, so here you see in the left hand side, it is the f x plus h that we want to find out in terms of all the functional value at x and all the higher order derivatives at this point x, uh, and it is actually expressed, fx plus h is expressed in terms of those quantities. Okay, so this is the whole idea. That, let me show it once again, that here you see this is the point x and the corresponding value of the function is fx. Okay, and at a distance h from x, if we want to know what is the functional value, to know that particular value, if it is known that it is x plus h away from this location, then its functional value will be function of its functional value, that is x, if x plus h will be function of, you see, the functional value at x, first order derivative at x, the second order derivative at x, third order derivative of x, and all the higher order derivative, but all these are at x. So in terms of the different higher order derivative and the functional value at x, it is possible to express the functional value at x plus h. So this is what is the Taylor series. You see that if this is the Taylor series, and in this particular example, I have written the terms up to nth order derivative, as you can see, and after that the other terms are definitely there, and those terms, if you see the degree of h, that will start from h to the power n plus 1, and then gradually this power of h will gradually increase. So the remaining term, the leading order term of the remaining term is h to the power n plus 1. So what we have written over there, this part is as if we have not written the other higher order terms, we have only written order of the truncation error. That means from the whole Taylor series, we have truncated up to this part. And the remaining part that we are not considering, that means we are going to encounter some error. and that error is called the truncation error because we have truncated the series up to this much. So this much will be the error because those terms we are not considering. And what is the leading order term of the remaining terms? The leading order term of the remaining terms is the h to the power n plus 1. Okay, so that is basically the smallest power of h, or the highest value of all the remaining quantities. Okay, so that is why this O h to the power n indicates what? This is indicates basically the truncation error, the order of truncation error. So here the order of truncation error, if we cut it here, is h to the power n plus 1. Okay, so now the truncation error depends on the quantities which are, you see carefully, it depends on the quantities, that what is the h that you are taking, and it also depends on the n, the number of terms that you are truncating. So here we have considered maybe this n terms. So definitely if you consider only 2 terms, if you consider 5 terms, so truncation error definitely depends on the number of terms of the Taylor series. That means it depends on n. Okay, so if you consider more number of terms, definitely the error will be less. If you consider less number of terms, if you consider say only 2 or only 3 terms, then definitely the error will be more. So it is clearly the truncation error depends on n. Now you see that the error also depends on h. The how truncation error depends on h? H is what? H is basically the step size. That means suppose you know the functional value at this location and you want to know the functional value at a distance x plus h. That means this distance along the x-axis is h. So if this h is large, that means from this value and its different derivatives, if you want to find the value at a distance this h, and if this h is very large, definitely your error will be large. Definitely your error will be large. So if this h or the step size is more, then your error will be more. So to minimize this truncation error, somehow it indicates that h should be very small. Okay, from the point of view of truncation error. But there is a problem. If we can see that if h is large, it is clearly that if h is large, then definitely the error will be more. Truncation error will be more. Now question, if h is small, definitely truncation error will be small. But what about the total error? The total error is not only the truncation error, but also the round off error. So let us first understand the round off error and then try to make a decision about the value of h. The round off error is that, suppose any instrument you use to measure anything, suppose you want to measure some length, for that you use some scale, and you know that the scale must have some least count. Least count means the below that least count, if you want to measure something, it is not possible to measure correctly with that length, with that scale. Okay, let us consider this is a scale you have and its least count is say 1 millimeter. That means the minimum length correctly it measures is 1 millimeter. But suppose you have some object which is of length say 0.3 millimeter. So there is no 0.3 millimeter graduation in the scale. It is only having the 1 millimeter graduations. So that is why it is the least count. So if you want to measure 0.3 millimeter, then what will happen? Either it will give you the 0 or it will give you the 1. Suppose you have 2.3 millimeter. So if it is 2.3 millimeter, an object, suppose it is a 2.3 millimeter, with the help of the scale, then what will happen? So the point where it is say 2 and the 3, these two marks are there. So 2.3 millimeter will be somewhere in between. So when you are measuring this particular object with this scale, then either you write 2 millimeter or you write 3 millimeter. So you can't write 2.3 millimeter or 2.5 millimeter or anything. So either you write 2 or you write 3, because the least count is 1. So if the dimension is less than, or if the dimension is less than the least count, then definitely some error will come into picture. That you can easily understand. Okay, so the same thing also happens in case of the machine also. The computer machine also having a least count. Okay, that is called the machine precision. Okay, now you see that with the help of this h, when you are doing some calculations, maybe some quantities that is function of h, maybe h to the power some higher values, and if you take some h is very small, maybe 10 to the power -5 or -6, and the expression of that function is such that it is function of h, and it is possible that if you take a very small h, the expression containing h might be so small that it is even less than the machine precision. If this is the case, then computer will not be able to distinguish that if it is below the machine precision. So if some values of expression of h, some expression of h, maybe some phi of h or another phi of h, and if both of them, phi and phi 1, which are so small, they are less than the machine precision value. Okay, so in that case, the computer machine is not will not be able to distinguish between these two values. So definitely because of that, the error will gradually increase. So this kind of error is called the round off error, as if machine is rounding off to its machine precision, because it is not possible for the machine to identify such a small value. If the numbers or expressions are h is so small such that its expression containing h might be below that machine precision, and machine will not be able to distinguish, and that is why the error will again pile up or increase. So that is also possible. Okay, so that kind of error is called the round off error. So that is why you can understand that too much small value of h is also not suitable. So too much high value of h is definitely increase the truncation error. Again, a very small value of h can increase the round off error. So some optimum value of h is required to be selected when you are doing some numerical calculation. So I hope you have got some idea about the truncation error and the round off error. Now, so here you can see we can conclude that in numerical analysis, the step size of the h should be optimum. It should not be very high or should not be very low. Some optimum value is to be taken. Now let us try to understand about this error. Let us try to find out the truncation error with some example, so that you will understand how to code to find out the truncation error and all that. Okay, so here we have taken one example. Suppose e to the power a, and this e to the power a, the numerical method, we will try to find out the value of e to the power a, because we know these functions can be expressed in Taylor series. So we'll find out the value of e to the power a by some, and from that we'll try to find out what is the truncation error depending upon how many terms we are going to take. Okay, so let us see that. So e to the power a, we'll try to find out the numerical value for a is equal to 0.1. So basically we are interested to find out e to the power 0.1. Okay, and then check the variation of the truncation error. If we take n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3, n is equal to 4, and n is equal to 10, and in all these situations, what is the value of error, how truncation error is changing. definitely we have some idea that if the number of terms increases, definitely the truncation error will gradually decrease, right? Because if we take one term, if we take two term, three term, four term, five term, the gradually the error will be less. Okay, if we take only one term, definitely error will be high. If we take two term, error will be smaller than this one. But again, so that we want to check that if we take the number of terms from 1 to 10, how the truncation error is gradually decreasing, that we want to see. Okay, so what is the technique to find out the truncation error? Let us see that. So let us first find out the true value of e to the power a. So we know that MATLAB having the function exponential. So simply write first a is equal to 0.1, that is given in the problem, because at a is equal to 1 you have to find out. So you find out, you first write a is equal to 0.1, then make a variable true val, and within true val we just pass exponential a. So now you can see that this true val will contain the actual value of exponential a. Now we will see that the truncation error. The truncation error only be calculated comparing with respect to the true val and the numerical value that we are going to carry out now. So let us see that. So for numerical calculation, what we are going to do, observe carefully. So first, you write a is equal to 0.1 and take n is equal to 10, and terms within the particular array terms, we are going to put all these terms like first term, second term, third term. All these are going to be the different terms of the exponential e to the power a, that you can see here. The different terms actually we want to contain. So 1, a square by 2 factorial, a cube by 3 factorial, these are the different terms. Okay, so in that particular array we want to keep all this term as the element. Okay, so this is what is our objective. So terms, initially we have created a blank array, as you can see. Now we have defined power vector. Power vector means the power of each term. You can see that power of each term is basically what? Here you see that a to the power 1, a to the power 2, a to the power 3. So powers are basically the integers starting from 1 to n. We are excluding right now the initial one. We are not considering the initial one. We'll take it separately as if a to the power 1, 2, 3. So these are basically the powers. So what we are doing, we are basically kept this power vector by colon notation, 1 colon n, and then it will create this array 1 to 10. Very simple. Now within terms, basically I have already told you that terms is the blank array that we have initially defined. So within that terms, we are going to generate each of the term. Okay, what are the each of the term? You see the each term is basically what? A to the power 1 by 1 factorial. This is one term. This is another term like this. Okay, so these are basically the different term. Okay, we are right now not considering the initial one. Forget about that. Okay, so this is as if the first term and all that. So now you observe carefully how you are generating each of these term without using any for loop. Definitely you can use the for loop, that might be easy, but here with the help of this kind of notations and some of the inbuilt function, we have tried to generate this thing. Observe carefully. So a, already we know what is a. So a is, we have already defined a. Then dot power. Okay, dot power. What? Power vec. Power vec is what? Power vec is this quantity. That means power vec is actually each of these element. It containing all this element. Okay, so a dot power vec dot slash, that means the divided by each term of that by what? Comprod. Comprod means cumulative product of power vec. What is cumulative product of the power vec? See, power vec is 1 to 9, and cumulative product means what? Just you check it. Copy that part in the command window. Suppose, okay, sorry, n I have not defined. Let us write n is equal to 10. So you just observe that what is there in the power vec that we have already seen 1 to 10, all these values. And now if we write comprod, that means cumulative product, comprod of this power vec. Now you see that what is this output. See, comprod is basically the cumulative product of the terms. So first term is basically, you observe, this is 1. Then the second term is basically this 1 into 2. Second term is 1 into 2. What is the third term? Cumulative product. So product of the first three term, 1 into 2 into 3. What is this term? 1 into 3 into 4. So by comprod, we are basically getting the cumulative product of that vector, and it will again generate another array that is basically the different factorial quantities. Nothing but this is 1 factorial, 2 factorial, 3 factorial, 4 factorial, like this. Okay, so within comprod, basically this each factorial terms are there. Okay, now what we are actually doing here, observe carefully. What we are doing actually, we are now see what we are doing. We are writing that a to the power vec, that means the each term of this will be considered. So a to the power, then first it will take the first element, a to the power 1, divided by the first term of this thing. What is the first term of this? That is 1. Then what is the second element of this? Second element, it is a to the power second term of the power vec, that is 2, and divided by the second term of the comprod. So these are the quantities that is going to be there within that particular vector. So terms is now an array, and within that array, these are the element. So these are basically the elements of that array. Okay, it is not any summation or anything. These are only the elements of that terms array. So now all the elements that has been created. So these are basically the elements that we want to create, that has been created now. I think that part is clear. So now, okay, so let me. So once that is created, finally what we are doing the cum sum. Cum sum means cumulative sum. So cumulative sum is what? You see, the cumulative sum of these quantities means what will be the first term? The first term will be a to the power 1 by 1 factorial. What is the second term? The second term will be the cumulative sum of the first two term. What are the first two term? The first two term are this. What will be the third term? Third term will be cumulative sum of the first three term. So what are the first three term? So in this way, you see that this cum sum of the terms is generated. And if you add 1 plus with this particular vector, this is a particular row vector that has been created, and if you add 1 to it, this 1 will be added to all the term. 1 plus this vector means this 1 will be added to all the term, because scalar sum will add to all the terms. So the first term will become, so within numerical val, num val, it will contain 1 plus this, 1 plus this, 1 plus this in this way. So basically you see the first term actually indicates the truncation only considering the first two value. The second term considering the truncation considering the first three value. Here it is considering the truncation up to this much. So now if you just calculate the numerical value of that, so it is basically the numerical value of e to the power a for considering n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3, n is equal to 4, like that up to n is equal to 10. And these are the numerical values. And if we want to find out that what will be the error, if you consider e to the power a is this, then what is the error? If you consider e to the power a is this, then what is the error? If you consider e to the power a is this, then what is the error? So you just subtract it from the true value. So subtract from the true value. If you subtract true value, remember, is a scalar quantity, that is e to the power a. Okay, so if you subtract this numerical value from the true value and you just take the absolute value, that means positive or negative does not matter. You take the absolute value, then you will get the truncation error. And you observe that if you consider up to this much only, the truncation error is this. If you consider up to this much, the truncation error will be this. If you consider more number of terms, truncation error will gradually decrease. Okay, so as you can observe that if the number of terms are increased, the truncation error will gradually decrease. Okay, so this is the technique by which you can check by the increase of the number of terms, we can easily show that the truncation error is decreased. Here you can see only up to the maybe the 4 decimal point, but if you want to see it in a plot that has been done, it is a semi-log plot, because in the y-axis, because you can see the truncation error goes up to 10 to the power minus 16. Okay, so it is only possible if you consider this as the log axis. So y-axis actually considered the log axis, and the x-axis, it is the normal axis. Okay, so that has been plot, and you see that gradually with the increase of number of terms that you are truncating, the error is gradually decreasing. So you can easily show in this way. Okay, so now you see one assignment problem has been given that you try of your own. Now coming to the next topic, that is numerical differentiation. Okay, so again you know that this is the Taylor series, and from the Taylor series we can define that f dash we can define f dash x, and you can see that the first order derivative of x that can be written as fx plus h minus fx by h plus the order of the error term, leading order term is, that is h, that is what is the order of truncation error that you can see here. But here the formula you can understand, it is the forward difference formula that has been used. You can also consider the backward difference or the central difference formula. So if you consider the central difference formula, in that case you can observe that the order of the truncation error is h to the power 2, and definitely h to the power 2 is less than h because h is very small. So this is much more accurate formula. So central difference formula is much more accurate with respect to the forward difference or the backward difference formula. So these formula are actually known to you. Now we'll see how with the help of this different formula we can find the derivative, some example problem that through the code that you will understand. Now for the second derivative, exactly in a similar way, for the second derivative, this is the central difference formula which is commonly used, and the leading order term in the error part you can see is the h square. Okay, so that is what is the order of the truncation error, and this is the central difference formula for the second order derivative. Okay, few things, these things you have to remember. Definitely we are going to use it with some practical problems. We will understand at that time that where we are going to use all these things. Right now take a very simple example and try to understand how can we numerically do the differentiation. Let us take a very simple example. Suppose fx is equal to tan inverse x. Okay, so let us take this example that fx is equal to tan inverse x, and we want to find out the first derivative of this function. So it is very clear the first derivative will be equal to 1 by 1 plus x square. Okay, so definitely we can easily find out the true value. So true value, if you want to find out at x is equal to 1 as given in the problem, they find out the first derivative of tan inverse x at x is equal to 1. You do it in both way, like you find out through true value and also find out the numerical differentiation, and then find out what is the truncation error that is coming. Okay, so this is what is our job. So for x is equal to 1, after finding out the differentiation analytically, and then you just calculate putting the value of x is equal to 1, and you will get the value is 1 by 1 plus 1, that is equal to half. Okay, so this is what is the actual value or the true value of the differentiation of tan inverse x at x is equal to 1. It's a very simple part. Now let us try to do it the same problem numerically. So how to do that? For that, let us consider a very small value of h. We have taken h is equal to 10 to the power minus 4. We have taken this as the step size, 10 to the power minus 4, and see that what is the error that is coming, or what is the numerical value what is coming. We know the true value is 0.5. Okay, so what is the technique? So this is the technique by which they have done, and you get the value is 0.5. Okay, now numerically let us do it. So we'll start with x is equal to 1, because we have to find out at x is equal to 1, and we have defined h is equal to 10 to the power minus 4. So you can see h is equal to 1 e to the power e minus 4, and you can do it by forward difference or a backward difference, or you can also find out by central difference formula. So if you want to do it by the forward difference formula, so we have given the variable name as forward underscore d. So tan inverse x, you know that MATLAB, it is the a tan. This is what is the function a tan. That means tan inverse. Okay, so a tan at x plus h minus a tan at x, because this is what is the functional value, that is tan inverse. So functional value at x plus h minus a tan of x divided by the value of h, that is what is the forward difference formula. So already you have defined what is h and x. Okay, so you can easily find out that what is the value using forward difference. And finally, to find out the error, from the true value it is subtracted, and then you take the absolute, so that the positive negative does not matter. It is basically the magnitude of error what is important. Okay, so here you can find the error is coming from the by numerical calculation, it is in the order of 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 5. This is what is the order of error that is coming if you consider h is 10 to the power minus 4. Now using the backward difference formula, exactly in a similar way you do that, and you will get that the order of error is almost the same. You see that 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 5 in case of backward difference. But can you predict that what will be the order of magnitude of the error if we do the same problem by the central difference? In central difference, definitely the error will be much less, because it is more accurate, and its value will be what? Its value will be in the order of the h square. The error will be in the order of h square. So it is 10 to the power minus 5. So that should be in the order of 10 to the power minus 10. So let us see whether it is showing that or not. You see, using the central difference formula fx plus h minus fx minus h by 2h, you see that the error that is coming is in the order of 10 to the power minus 10. Okay, so that means it is also proved that the central difference formula, the leading order term, that is h squared term, that is h square, whereas in case of a forward or a backward difference, it is in the order of h. Here you can see the square of that quantity. Okay, and now there are three assignment problem that is there. I just want to show you one of the assignment problem where if temperature field in a rod, assume 1D, is given that temperature is equal to minus 5x cube plus 3x square plus 1, and the thermal conductivity is varying as say 30 plus square root of x, and plot heat flux variation with x and take x from 0 to 1. Okay, so this is what is the problem, where thermal conductivity, how it is varying along x, that is given, temperature is also given. So what you have to plot is basically the heat flux variation. So we have to plot this variation of heat flux. So how heat flux is changing with x from 0 to 1 meter. Okay, so that variation we want to see. So what is heat flux? You know that heat flux is equal to, from Fourier's law, minus k into del T del x. Okay, so if we use this, that heat flux is equal to minus k del T del x, then T is there, and del T del x is the first order derivative of temperature with respect to x. So that we can find out by numerical method. Okay, so how can we do that? Let us observe it. The first part is very simple. What is the actual value? Without any numerical method, what is the actual value? Actual value part is very simple, because you know that what is the value of k, you know what is temperature. So just to do this del T del x and put the values, you will get the expression of heat flux, because you put the value of k as 30 plus square root of x, and del T del x you just put the value as del T del x, you just put the value of minus 15 x square plus 6x. Okay, it is as simple as that, heat flux. And so heat flux will vary in this way. Now if you just change the value of x from 0 to 1, and accordingly for each x you will get the heat flux. So this is what is the analytical calculation, simple calculation, not numerical calculation. Okay, now numerically if we want to do that, what we have to do is that this dt dx, this first derivative, we have to calculate by forward difference, backward difference, or central difference formula. Okay, so which formula should we use? That is the question. Definitely, if this is the rod, and if we consider some grid points like this, now you see that for all the intermediate points, what we mean by the intermediate points, these are intermediate points. That means both side of those points, there are some points. Those are called intermediate points, and these are end points. This is end points. This is end points. So all the intermediate points, you definitely can use the central difference formula, because in case of a central difference formula, you know you require, suppose this is the point x, you need both x plus h and you need x minus h. Okay, so you need both the points in the forward and in the backward for the central difference formula. So for the intermediate points, you can use the central difference formula, but for the end points, for this point, maybe for the left end, what formula you can use for the left end? Definitely you can use the forward difference formula, because you have only the neighbor which is at the forward point. So here only x plus h point is there if you consider this as the x. Okay, so for the left end you use the forward difference formula to find out the derivative, and for the right end you use the backward difference formula, because if you consider this as the x, then only x minus h neighbor is there, but x plus h neighbor is not there, so you can't use the central difference. So for the n points, you use forward difference here and the backward difference here, and all the intermediate points you use the central difference, because central difference is much higher accuracy is there. Okay, so that we are going to do here, and we'll find out what is the heat flux that is coming. Let us see how to write the code for that. So here basically initially the true heat flux is calculated simply putting the value of expression of K and the differentiation by ordinary differentiation, partial differential, the minus 15 x square plus 6x. So this is the analytical method way of solving it. And let us take 11 grid points to start with, equally spaced on the rod, including 2 endpoints. Total 11 including 2 endpoints. Now for any interior grid points, we can use the central difference because of the high accuracy and linear profile, less computation because linear profile. And for the left endpoint, we are using the forward difference, and for the right endpoint, we are using backward difference formula. Okay, so now for the n is equal to 11, we have defined these things like n is equal to 11, as you can see, and then x is equal to lean space from 0 to 1, because 0 to 1 is the total length of the rod. So from 0 to 1, we have divided into n number of points. So 0 to 1, n number of points. So that will create this x. So x will take the distance. It will start from 0, then maybe 1, 2, 3, in this way, 10. In this way, 10. So total 11 points you are going to get in this way. So x will contain this kind of thing. This is what is the lean space command will do. Next is you define what is k, because that is given. Then you find out h, because h is distance between any two x points. Any two x points is basically what is h. So we have just written x2 minus x1, because x is already defined. Okay. Next, the temperature function is given. So I have just written that this temperature array, and that will be what? That will be minus 5 into x. See, x, remember, x is an array. It containing total 11 numbers. So this is an array. So if you want to power of each of the term, then what you have to do, not only power but dot power, that you have to give. So that is why dot power 3 plus 3 into x dot power 2 plus 1. This is how the temperature array is now created, corresponding to each and every 11 grid points. Okay. After that, true heat flux is calculated using the formula, that is minus k into star. You see, into star is basically one element by element, because k is a vector as well as this quantity dt dx is also a vector. That is why dot star is used to find out the heat flux. This is what is the true value for each and every grid point. This is the true value. Now let us see how to do the numerical differentiation and find out the heat flux. So what we are going to do, we are going to apply central difference for the intermediate grid points only. Okay. So for the intermediate grid points, what are the intermediate grid points? Total there are n number of grid points. N is 11. So for I is equal to 2 to n minus 1. So 2 to n minus 1, that means those are intermediate points. And left end points is n is equal to 1, right end point is n. That means right end point, the I is basically 11. Okay, so basically we are considering 2 to 10 here. So for those, what we are writing, dt dx, the array that we are creating corresponding to the each element is defined as how, that is t I plus 1 minus ti minus 1 divided by 2h, which is basically the central difference formula. Okay, so using the central difference formula of the temperature values of the neighboring grid points, you have defined the dt dx at each and every intermediate points. And now you have to define the dt dx of the n points also. So for that, for the left end, we are using the forward difference formula, and you see that dt dx1, this is what is the left end, and for that we have used the forward difference formula. You see the forward difference formula is fx plus h minus fx. So if that means the t2 minus t1, right? So that we have used. And for the backward difference formula, we have used for the right end point. Okay, so dt dx of the n, here you see the last point is what is n, so tn minus 1 divided by h. So in this way we have defined dt dx at each and every point now. Okay, so once you know dt dx at each and every point numerically, previously we have used this differentiation formula to calculate the dt dx at each and every point. Now we have defined dt dx at each 11 grid points using the this difference formula. Okay, so once that has been created, then you create the numerical the heat flux from that, exactly in a similar formula that we have defined. So here you see, so what is the q flux numerical? That is equal to minus k into dot star, because this is also a vector, dot star dt dx. Okay, that has been defined here in these 3 lines. So finally, once the heat flux numerical is generated, heat flux true is generated, now plot both the curve in the same graph and compare whether we are getting the same curve or not by numerical calculation and by the actual calculation, actual differentiation. And if you plot them, you observe that you are getting this kind of a curve. Okay, so here you can see that they are almost same, only what you are observing here. Here you see that at this endpoint and this endpoint, the error is very high. If you compare the numerical and the true value, the error is very high. But for the intermediate grid points, the error is not much, right? So you can understand that why this happens, because at the endpoints we have used the forward and backward difference formula, whereas at the intermediate points we have used the central difference formula, and that is quite accurate. So what you can do, that you can increase the number of grid points. So instead of 11 grid points, you can work with 101 grid points, and if you run it, so now you see that it is almost matching the true curve. Okay, maybe this part is, if you consider only at the end points, maybe some deviation is there, but that is negligible as you have increased the number of intermediate points now. Okay, so in this way we can solve the practical problems using the numerical differentiation using the finite difference formula. Okay, thank you.